Hey friends, Kevin here, and I was having a conversation with someone. I made the comment that I could slap a solar panel on a metal top van, minivan or cargo van, and have this thing providing power to a battery bank and running a refrigerator, and I could do that in 20 minutes if I had the right stuff. And I was politely told that I was full of it. So I'll let you put down in the comments whether you think I'm full of it or not, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, installing a panel in just a few minutes time that will not fly off of the vehicle and does not require you to punch any holes into the top of your vehicle. No holes to drill. Let me show you the basics of this. This is a solar panel we're going to be using. I usually tell people to go ahead and buy a solar panel kit rather than just the panel. Now, a kit is going to come with a charge controller. If you're using your own battery setup, you're going to need that charge controller. If you're using some type of portable power station like this, you don't need the charge controller. It has a charge controller built into it. So you can just give that charge controller away to someone else. But it is going to come with other things you need, like the brackets to hold it down. If you buy a panel by itself and all of this stuff's going to be linked below, then you are going to need to pick brackets up separately. And since we're not drilling, we're going to be taping these down. Now, solar panels are generally held with 4 of these brackets. If you're really not confident in doing this and you want more brackets holding your panel down because you think it will be more secure, you can always grab you another pack of brackets. As far as tools, no drills, no punches, actually no power tools. We need a screwdriver, we need a little adjustable wrench of some type, you need a utility knife, or I prefer a pair of scissors, and you need a piece of sandpaper. Doesn't matter what type. This is what we're going to use to put panels on this metal top van. Now, I have done this. I have these on a van with a fiberglass top. They have been on there for about 5 years. They aren't going anywhere. I've been all over the country. I've been into Canada with that thing. They aren't going anywhere. I am confident in what this will do also. This particular 3M tape is basically the stuff they use to keep giant windows from blowing out of skyscrapers. This is heavy duty double-sided tape. Then we're going to go over it again to make sure everything is nice and watertight with this Eternabond stuff, which is used to repair mobile home roofs and RV roofs. But this alone is not going to hold a panel on, which is a question I've been asked, or not that I would trust to do it anyway. You want a combination of both of these. Because I am dealing with a metal roof, that's what the sandpaper is for. I want to take this down to the bare metal to make sure I have the best adhesion on this rather than having it adhered to the paint and the clear coat, which may be fine. But because I'm going to follow up with this Eternabond stuff, it is going to be a complete moisture-free seal. Water is never going to be able to get into it. So the little bit of an area that I take the paint off of, it is not going to rust. And the last thing I'm using is a Sharpie, just so I can mark the areas where I am going to position this panel. Step 1, we need to install the brackets on the solar panel. 4 bolts, 4 nuts, 4 lock washers, and 8 big washers. That's enough to install these 4 brackets on this panel. Here is where our bracket is going to attach. 4 brackets installed. Now we're going to grab our Sharpie. We're going to hurl this up on the van, figure out exactly where we want to put it, and we're going to mark the spaces. Because these are aluminum, they are slightly bendable, so we can make sure we get this laid out. I would rather have all of these legs on a ridge, but if we can't, then I would have all of the legs over here just on this flat surface. Now we pull this thing back off the roof, sand where our brackets are going to be, get the tape on here. So now with these marked, I'm just going to scuff this with sandpaper. This happens to be 180 grit, but whatever you have around, you just want to get that down, get that scuffed up, get that clear coat off, get that down past the paint. Okay, the little clamps holding these wires, we want to cut these loose so we have easy access to them. There is our tape put on here. This is good old double-sided stuff, so this side goes to the surface. Then when we're ready to do this up here, we'll peel the other side off. Tape is installed. We have our marks up on the roof, so we're just going to hurl this back up, pull this side of the tape off, press down on it for a few seconds. It will adhere. So there we are in our marks. It's easier to work on one side at a time. The hardest part of this whole thing will be getting these red tape covers to pull loose. So now we'll get it lined up. Work that out of the way. That looks like what we want. We'll run and do the other side real quick. Little pressure for a few seconds and we are done. So the next step is going to be the Eternabond. Now this stuff is single-sided. This is actually what the surface is going to look like on top that you're going to see. This is the adhesive section on the bottom. Has a clear cover here that we're going to peel off. Slap this down, and when we put this down, this will mold itself to whatever surface you are doing. So it will mold itself right over those metal brackets, and it will make a seal, watertight seal, all the way around, ensuring that no moisture ever gets in there on our 3M tape. And this is going to be just cut to fit. So if we were really picky, we could go this way, get us a little extra seal. We could go this way, but this is about the size of the bracket. So we are going to want to go a little bit wider. So we're going to end up with something like this. And we want to come out here, oh, maybe half an inch above and half an inch behind, just to make sure that that is completely covered. So that should put us about right here. So we have this cut a little bit wider. We can actually rip this in two right here. So we can use this one piece both here and back here on this bracket. Is this the prettiest thing in the world? Absolutely not. And by the way, you will end up with a wrinkle or a bubble in that. It's absolutely fine. But again, keep in mind, nobody is ever going to see this unless they are up in the air way over your van. Somebody walking down the side, walking behind it, they are never going to see this. Remember, this stuff is not to hold the solar panel down. This stuff is only to make our tape as waterproof as we can get it. So there we are with the clear peeling off. Now we can get this completely around that bracket. If it makes you feel better to use more of this than I did, then feel free. What I want to show you is that even doing this, which is not perfection, is going to be absolutely fine. And unlike those flat little flexible panels that never seem to last anyone very long, I honestly think the failure rate on those things is about 50% after 6 months, regardless of the brand, at least based on the people that I have camped with over the years. But this panel, the reason these are great, these are up off your van a little bit, air can go underneath even when it is sitting, so these things are not overheating. They are not developing hot spots and burn spots, because they have airflow all the way around. These are the wires that are going to run from the top of the van inside of the vehicle. I would have preferred to have 2 black wires, but everyone seems to want to sell a black one and a red one. So I am going to end up just taking some black tape, electrical tape, and going around this, because black wire is barely noticeable. Red wire is going to stick out like a sore thumb. So just some electrical tape wrapped around that will keep anyone from being able to really even recognize it as it's going down the foot or so and into the side window of that van. Some brands of power stations actually include the solar adapter that will pop right into these, but generally what they give you is not going to be long enough to be able to reach the panel on your van, which is why you're going to need some type of extension cable. And I like going with something at least 10 foot, that way I can negotiate this around, get it tucked up and out of the way, and I can put it in different locations. If I change my mind later, I have a little bit of extra slack to be able to move things around. So here we are, this one is negative, so we'll put this into our cable. See what I was talking about, this being red colored, which is why I'm going to use the black tape. Pull these on over, a little piece of Eternabond right here. There is only about 4 or 5 inches until it drops right into my window. So I'll only have to use that black tape just to make this a little less noticeable, just for a couple of feet, so it's not a big deal. Now at this point, if your power station came with the right cable to plug into solar panels, you would plug it in directly into your little extension cable here. In the case of this one, it didn't, and some of the other ones I have didn't, so I have this 6-in-1 cable, because this will work in virtually any power station I want to throw at it. And this particular one uses this type of plug here. And at this point, we are done. Now, the sun is basically getting ready to drop behind this mountain. It is at night. So a couple things you need to know. One, I'm going to check back in here in the morning and show you this thing with the sun hitting it, actually charging this power station. Number two, there is a cure time on this. I've heard 24 hours. I think to be safe, 24 to 48 hours. That is for this 3M adhesive to be completely cured and bonded. However, it does what it does pretty fast. So I figure I am at 60 or 70% right now, even with it just on there for a couple of minutes. I am not going to take this thing out on the highway tonight, but I am actually going to drive this through town here where I happen to be at. So I'm going to be driving 20 or 25 miles an hour, and those panels will be absolutely fine. Through the morning and the afternoon, this thing will be sitting in the sun. These things will be baking. Time plus that heat is going to make sure these adhere really well. Okay friends, it is the next day. You see me squinting because it is sunny. I've seen this thing go up to 93 watts off of a 100-watt solar panel. In direct sun, you can realistically expect to get somewhere between 80 and 85 watts. Now, when there's a cloud overhead, this thing may drop to 40 or 50 watts, but we are still pulling a nice charge into this constantly. And yes, I have driven around and my solar panel has not flown off the top of the van yet. I think the display on this Jackery is a little bit easier to see. So let me plug this in into the Jackery. Give it a few seconds to recognize it. 68, 72, okay, now we're up to 82, 87. So while I like Renogy panels, very efficient. With a 100-watt panel, you can expect to pull about 80 watts realistically. And what that equates to is an average over an hour. So if you had this plugged into something for an hour, you would pull about 80 watt hours, as they call it, back into it. This is a 288 watt hour device, which means this thing will completely charge within 3 to 4 hours. Now, if you have your refrigerator plugged into it at the same time, that's going to take a little bit of power, so it may take 5 hours to completely charge it because it is going to be using some power to run the refrigerator. This big boy here is a little over 700 watt hours, so it would take basically all day, a good day, to completely charge this if it was run down all of the way. But because it is such a big boy, generally when I get up in the morning, I'm still at 60% power or something. So the same way, it's going to take 3, 4, 5 hours to charge this back up. So it's not that hard to do. But here is the important thing. When I'm out and about, I am not messing with this stuff all the time. I am not constantly twiddling with it. I'm probably going to glance at it twice throughout the day just to make sure that everything is working. like it's supposed to, which it generally is, but that's it. I get up, I don't think about it. It becomes daylight, the solar comes in, the battery is charged, the refrigerator runs, I'm doing my thing. I don't want anything that I have to sit and mess with and twiddle with constantly. So a very simple system that anyone can do, and a very simple solar installation that anyone can do in just a few minutes. I don't worry about having the solar panel at the exact right angle. I don't care if something ends up tilted a little bit. It doesn't matter. You're talking very small, minute measurements. I don't care. I could put this thing on tilts and all of this stuff, and yes, I would get 87% instead of 82%. I just don't have to deal with any of that. It works fine. It works good enough without me ever getting up there and messing with trying to tilt or adjust anything. It works just fine without me wiping it off every day. That's what rain is for. On my big vans, I literally wipe the solar panels off maybe twice a year, and I've had them on there for about 5 years now. So don't get distracted with what a lot of people tell you that you have to do and you need to do, because you just don't. Just get the stuff, install it, and go enjoy yourself. But I'd be happy to hear your opinions in the comment, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, whether if you think I actually didn't install this panel in 20 minutes, that's your opinion. That you're certainly entitled to it. But I'm telling you, it is doable for anyone else. And anybody else out there, if there's any questions you have about anything I'm doing, something that I can do or show in a future video that would help you out, or a question I can answer, put those down in the comments and we'll talk soon.